Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and we're back with another episode of 10-minute testing for the One Piece trading card game. In this series, we'll be showcasing a deck through competitive gameplay and analyzing its position in the upcoming meta. So get yourselves a drink, and we'll get straight into the card by card. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to what seems to be a 30-minute testing video. For this video, we are going to be exploring one of the more underrepresented leaders, a fan favorite, and an overall fire chef, Sanji. Now, Sanji is a blue-green leader that came out in OPO2 that has a very interesting effect, and I feel like that's putting it in a nice way. If you don't know what Sanji does, it states when you play a character without an effect from your hand, if you have 3 or less characters in play, set up to 2 of your Dawn as active. So it has 2 conditions. A, you have to summon a character without any sort of effect, aka a vanilla. In this deck, we're playing Usopp, Zorro, and Pacifista, cards that are just complete blanks. Then, if I have only 3 or less on board, I get to activate 2 Dawn, basically reducing the cost of Usopp, Zorro, and Pacifista. What makes this exceptionally good in Sanji is the fact that if you use cards like Brook or Monkey D. Luffy that play out cards from your hand, you can then still get the effect, because as long as you're playing the card from your hand, you get that Dawn back. Whereas if you were to play cards like this Pacifista engine from the structure deck, you would not get the Dawn, as the Pacifista is playing it from your deck as opposed to your hand. So I tried this engine, didn't work, but went back to the drawing board. And this is what we ended up coming up with. I know it's a very heavy film engine with very little blue, but let's get to the card by card and I'll try to explain my choices. So we're going to be maxing out on the Usopp. He is a 3-cost 5k vanilla. He's one of the cards that we want to use to trigger Sanji's ability. Overall, he's a Straw Hat and a film, which is searchable by my Nami, and he has a fantastic stat line. We're followed up by this Tony Chopper that, if you don't know what it does, it says Dawn ×1 when attacking. Rest up to one of your opponent's character with a cost of 2 or less. It's also a 2k counter, but in the Zorro and Law matchup, this card fights for the board like nobody's business. It takes care of Namis, Makinos, literally any 1-drop you want, or even blockers. It has shown or proven to be very effective on board as well as in hand. We also have the Nami from the film set. Now, what Nami from the film set is a 3/5, so she's huge. No counter though, but it states on play and when attacking, I can tap 1 Dawn and then look at the top 3 cards of my deck for a film card and add it to my hand. It's a pretty consistent searcher. Think of it like a Boa Hancock, that if I can trigger this card multiple times and defend it, I can continue to accrue advantage through the searches that it provides. The fact that it's a 5k body makes it super easy to deal damage. Without any Dawn attachment, it procs interaction from your opponent, and by paying 1 Dawn, I can look for the top of my deck for a Tony Chopper, a Luffy, or a missing piece of the puzzle that I'm looking for that turn. Honestly, an exceptionally good card in an underexplored archetype. We then have Brook. Brook states on play 1 film or Straw Hat type character from your hand with a cost of 3 or less. That is going to go ahead and summon this Usopp, this Chopper, or this Nami. Think about it. For 4 Dawn, I'm getting 2 5Ks, or for 2 Dawn, I'm getting 2 5Ks. Now that's value. Then we've got the Monkey D. Luffy 7 cost from OPO2, which states it's a blocker 7k no counter. On play 1 film type character or Straw Hat type character from your hand with a cost of 4 or less. So you can play this Luffy, to play this Brook, to play this Nami. Sounds pretty good. So that's 7 whole Dawn. If you have no cards on board, you can play the Luffy, to play the Brook, to play the Usopp, and you do that for 5 Dawn, keep 2 up. Well, it's you pay 7 and you keep 2 up, and you can have a Love Beam or Punk Gibson on curve, and you've just created 3 characters with a minimum 5k stat line. Gaming. Our last card one of the last cards from the film archetype that we're going to be using is the Zorro vanilla 6k. This can be also summoned off the Luffy, so Luffy can go ahead and trigger the effect here. If you have 1 card on board, you can still go Luffy Zorro and still get the added bonus. And then we are using Bartholomew from the promotional pack. Now Bardo's really interesting because it says at the end of your turn, I can rest Bardo to make active one of my film cards, and I'm looking to make this Luffy active. So I can go Luffy into Brook into this Bart, and then on the next turn I can attack with my Brook and Luffy and then use Bartholomew to go ahead and make my Luffy active, creating a blocker and a defender. 7 cost uses Captain Kid at home, but I'll take it. Then we use the blue engine here more as a value-centric engine. We're using the Pacifistas as a tricky exploration, because if I'm allowed to block with this Kuma and summon a Pacifista and I'm at 3 characters, I do get to activate 2 Dawn, as Sanji is not during my turn only, it's during either player's turn, which if I am able to do that, will activate my Punk Gibson and Love Beams. Will that happen in today's testing? Probably not, but the possibility for that play is in the deck. I'm also using cards like Boa Hancock that if I can defend with my very powerful event spells and Paradise Waterfall, which works absolutely amazingly well with Boa Hancock, I can continue to get value on the defense as well as the offense. And lastly, Mihawk. Why is Mihawk in my deck? Well, I tried Eustace Captain Kidd, the 8 cost, because I'm a 4 lifer and I'm afraid of dying, but that card wasn't saving me. And also, standing behind the 8 cost Kid feels like a meta ago, and I don't really want to keep doing it. It doesn't feel like I'm moving forward, it feels like I'm moving back. So I'm trying the Mihawk in a way to assert tempo and continue the mid-game swing that this deck really has. What this deck wants to do is go on the curve of 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and we want to curve our opponent into the Nami, use something here to keep Dawn, use something to keep Dawn, then Luffy into Mihawk. And that's gonna be really what the deck tries to do over and over and over again. By the time that you do that, you should be at 5 characters on board, all with 5k stat line plus, and that should help you win the game, as each turn you've been able to keep up Dawn for these very powerful event spells. If you look at the deck by bare hand, you only have 4 2ks, but what if I told you we've got Waterfall, we've got Punk Gibson, and we've got Love Mellow, which by the ability that Sanji inherently gives us, we can keep up pretty consistently. So without further ado, guys, let's try to go get some games and see if we can take some W's. So we decided to start off strong with the Zorro matchup, our opponent forcing us to go first and then having a crazy opener. Now, we don't really have a lot of plays on 1, but our plays on 3 are really solid. Like, we really wanted to play this Nami out, but we got Gordon, Whitebeard, and Frankie plus Chopper. Unfortunate. So I Punk Gibson to go ahead and kind of deal with the Gordon, because if Gordon, Whitebeard get to like deal with my board, then I'm really not doing much and I'm getting cleared for free. And I don't want to do that. If I just let that board stand, and then once he turns sideways, he clears my entire board, and then he has the Chopper to defend my leader hit, I basically lose the game. He goes Otama here, Otama to decrease my Nami. I'm going to go ahead and defend this one because it forces the Frankie to go into it. And if the Frankie's going into the Nami, it's not going into the Brook, which I'm very okay with. Plays another Gordon and then goes 6 on my lead. I'm going to have to take this hit just so I need some, just some cards in hand. I'm going to go ahead and try to get over the Whitebeard. He defends the Frankie, and then I will play a Zorro of my own. And I'm debating if do I keep up 4 Dawn or do I develop here? Now, I don't believe keeping up 4 Dawn would have done much, especially not into the Jet Pistol, as he would have just been able to clear the Rono or Zorro with the Jet Pistol, and now he would have just done that, but to my Brook. So it's not looking good for the good guys, but my opponent's hand is starting to look very mediocre. I let it go after the first hit, so now I can finally take care of this Frankie. I'm going to go play this Brook, which is going to go ahead and play the Zorro alongside it, and I have a Love Beam as well. So now my opponent goes Uda. I'm finally able to stabilize, but he goes Uda to add Frankie, to add Robin. I get a card to my hand just because, again, I want cards, and unfortunately I play this Bonnie, which doesn't get me what I'm looking for. I'm looking specifically here for the Luffy. This is one of the many iterations of the deck that I went through tonight, and I really don't have much of a play, except going in for some damage. I'm going to go ahead and attach, play around any sort of like Jet Pistols in life or anything like that. Drop all the way down to 4 Dawn, and then I can go ahead and leave my Love Beams available. If I can just try to defend this turn, then be good. I was really hoping to hit the Luffy there just to have like another body on board, but now, he goes 5 at 6, which I let go through. Defend here with 1k. Otama beats up on the Nami. You don't get to see that every day, which is funny. I'm expecting a Whitebeard. That's why I defended here so aggressively, because I thought he was going to Whitebeard originally during the turn, and now he's just attaching a lot of Dawn. He goes 6 at 6. I will Love Beam that. He goes 7 at 5. I'll Love Beam that. And then if he wants to go ahead and like pistol here or something, then I'm okay with it. He's going to go Uda, add Chopper, and then play another Chopper, right? So I don't have lethal here, but I certainly am not in a bad spot. I just want to clear some of his cards. He goes ahead and defends this rather much, in my opinion. Gives me 2 cards. It goes down to 1 card in hand. Does he want to give me the last card in hand, which I think is a 2k? He blocks. I Bonnie. Bonnie will find me again nothing. Well, the original one found me a Bartholomew, or a Bardo, and now this one found me nothing. So I'll go ahead and play a blocker. Let's see how he plays out this turn. He goes 7 at 5. I will let that go. No effect. Keeping up 4 just in case what my life is like a Pawn Gibson or things like that. That'd be really solid. Or a Love Beam. He's gonna go ahead and put 1/2 down. He's gonna go 7 at my lead. I let that go through because that's a really bizarre attack. And then depending on how these last couple of attacks go through, we'll see if we can live. So my opponent here attaches some Dawn. I don't know why he goes for the Brook here. This is like a really weird play. I'm going to go ahead and Paradise the Zorro. He's going to attach everything to the other Zorro. Well, to his leader. And then he's going to go in. I'm going to let this go through. And then just mathematically he lost. I just put some Dawn to the play around the Jet Pistol. I'll go 9. And then attach everything to Zorro for game. So there's absolutely nothing that he can do. It's just an unavoidable lethal. He just had a really weird turn. But fortunately, we were able to get out of there. Now we're going to go ahead and play against Kaido, which is one of the matchups that I believe Sanji may excel at. Let's see how we go and navigate this one. Now, we mulliganed into a horrendous hand. Honestly, couldn't be worse. My opponent, again, making us go first, and we just don't have the hand for it. I don't think we won many die rolls on the sim today. I have legitimately no play. I will swing for 6. And yes, swinging for 6 here is weird because he just defends it with a 2K. But honestly, if he just keeps removing 2Ks from hand, these Zorros are going to go to town. Now, let's see if my opponent has the Oni, and he doesn't. He goes 6 in my face. I will take this as I'm just going to need a lot of resources to win this game. I'll go 6 again, give me another 2K, and I'll just run out of Zorro and restand to Dawn, keeping up a Love Beam. So really solid. Unfortunately, my opponent goes to 6 this turn, I believe, so he could have just like a king here for my Zorro, and my opponent does. Isn't great, but what can we do? I'll go 5 this turn, and then this turn has to be specifically a Luffy developed turn, right? So Luffy's going to go ahead and let's see if he takes this 5. He's been defending very aggressively. He chooses not to take the 5, goes Luffy, summon Zorro, and I'll gain the 2 Dawn right back. So Luffy showing off just how absolutely Chad of a card it is. He's going to go ahead and swing here for 7. Pitching a king to ramp a Dawn. I'm going to go ahead and defend here and just pitch a 1K. See if he wants to commit into the Luffy. I have the Love Beam, so there's no way he can clear it. So let's see how he goes about it. Yep, then he falls right into that trap. Go ahead and defend the Luffy, and he goes 5 at my lead. I'm going to actually take this, funnily enough, and back to my turn. So now with the board the way it is, I'm going to swing 5 here. Let's see how he reacts. And depending on my opponent's decision here, I will see what I do. Because I do have a 9. I could 7 into 9 him, which I was very much bailed out by my late game curve. Because my early game curve was terrible. So he's going to give me a 2K there. Alright, buddy. He's going to Blast Breath this. I'm going to go ahead. I'm thinking about attaching any Dawn here. This is just too free not to. So I choose not to Mihawk here because there's just no point. I don't want to like play into a 10 drop Kaido and 9, any sort of big Kaido. So by keeping up at least 2 Dawn here, I feel a little bit more safe. I don't want to play my Brook and Nami just yet because, again, I don't want to develop into like a really bad scenario. Attaches a ton of Dawn, and I just defend my Luffy. Now this turn, I'm just going to cash in my characters. Just no Dawn attachment, go face, see what happens. Let's see how he reacts. Yeah, that card has to be like 10 drop in my head. I'm just hovering over it, There's no other card that it can possibly be. If he defends this, it's very bizarre. But my opponent taking some time, and he does defend it, so I will not give him another card, and it's just basically over. If he didn't draw exactly the 10 drop there, I know he skipped turn, but if he didn't draw the exact 10 drop there, the game just immediately ends. Even if he does play the 10 drop, I have Brook and Nami to bail me out. So we're gonna go ahead and play against the big bad Whitebeard. A Whitebeard choosing to go second. Again, never winning die roll, but this time I have a pretty fast start. I just want to apply pressure to the beard, and this hand is looking like it'll be able to do that. So Nami went ahead and searched the promo Luffy, so we have to keep that in mind. The 1K counter. Luffy goes ahead and counters with a 2K. He plays a Zorro. Now Zorro, I'm not a fan of Zorro in Whitebeard because it just makes your leader, who is inherently a 6K, it makes it a 5K this turn. To deal damage to the Whitebeard character, I would not be able to, I'd have to attach a Dawn. I'd get taxed in order to be able to deal damage to him. So I play as Zorro, and then I'll just go Usopp into the Zorro, and he's gone. He gave me a 1K for it, and I was able to clear that card. So even though it might look like that card was a blocker, I didn't really have to invest as much, and I could have just gone 5-5, develop another Usopp, which was honestly probably better. He goes 6 at the Usopp. I'm just not going to defend it. I don't think I really can. And then he's going to go ahead and drop a King Do. Now, King Do is a really big card. Not something you see a lot in the Strawbeard, but I get to do that cool turn of Luffy into Brook into Nami. So now I have 4 bodies, which refueled the board there. And now I have tempo swung right to my side, right as I get to 3 life. So my opponent goes ahead and puts the Makino to boost the Nami. Nami is now a 5k, 6, 7k. Yeah, I'll take it. Can't really afford to, lose my Luffy here. It's just game losing. So let's see, and he goes 7, so I will defend this for the last life by blocking with the Luffy. I should have probably kept the Facifista because I had the Bartholomew in hand, but it is what it is. Go ahead and clear the Nami. He can keep the Makino on the board. That card ain't going to do anything. I'll go 7 at the Do, add a Chopper. He goes and pitches a Nami. I'm going to go 7 at the Do. I'm just going to try to clear his hand. I don't want to drop him to 0 again. Even though he did play Nami this game, by playing King Do, I'm a little concerned if he's the Moby Dick. So I don't want to just get Mobied this game. And I could have gotten taxed there to like put 2 more Dawn, but I wanted to play a Boa as well, so I couldn't swing at the Do anymore. So I went for 1 more attack at the leader. Now I have 5 characters on the board, all of the 5k stat line. This is exactly where I want to be versus the Whitebeard character. I may not be able to win on my next turn, but I have 1 to 2 more turns of dealing damage to them, and I have pretty solid amount of counters and blockers in hand. So let's see how my opponent navigates this turn. It's getting towards that climax. Let's see how he decides to play it. Takes a bit of time here. Honestly, it's very scary. Yeah, I'm hovering over the Zorro. I'm just not a fan of it. Just let me get too much. It got me take 1 card, and I should have honestly developed the Usopp. I have an extra Usopp in my hand. Should be on the board probably. So he just base 7Ks me, which is a little weird. Makes me believe that he has like the Whitebeard in hand, but I can't afford to like take this damage. So even if he Whitebeards me here, I do have the Boa Hancock if he tries to swing at my Luffy. If he chooses not to swing at my Luffy, I still have to Boa Hancock because I cannot take that final life. The Makino is just going to be chilling there for the rest of the game. She has become a Whitebeard cheerleader at this point in time. Well, let's see what he decides to do now. If I remember correctly, he taps 7 here for an ace, minus 3k to 2 of my characters, and I must defend this Luffy. Luffy is basically my only win condition at this point in time, so I'm going to go ahead and defend the Luffy. He keeps up 3 Dawn, but he swings at the Zorro. Unfortunately, I probably could have countered out of that, which probably would have been better for me, as I know this is my last turn in the game. But yeah, certainly that was a misplay on my part. I should have definitely defended the Zorro there, so I'd have 1 more swing, right? Because at this point in time, I'm basically hitting him for 6s, because each Dawn I place is a card from hand, right? If I overcommit to any of these lower costed cards, he can definitely just combo out. So I go 6, 6, 6. I don't even trigger Nami's effect because I have to go all in for 14 here. And unfortunately, even though 14 seems like a big number, it's just 2 radical beams away. So if he's got it, he's got it. I can't defend him next turn. And fortunately enough, he doesn't got it. And for our last game here, the new Spice, Magellan. So I believe Mulligan in here forces me to go first again. So I'm noticing the pattern here. Everyone's just kind of forcing me to go first. So this deck doesn't mind going first because we have a nice 3, 5, 7, 9. But so I'm looking for any sort of 3 drop here. I'm going to go 5 at the lead, and I'm going to go ahead and develop a Nami at this point in time because I'm hoping for Nami to find me a Luffy or a Brook, and then use the Brook and or Luffy on my following turn to develop the Usopp. Goes ahead and develops the Minotaur. I know he has Magellan in hand at this point in time because of the Henny Battle surged it. I will just draw this. My Paradise doesn't really do much, and I draw for turn. So I'm going to go ahead and swing just all base. Swing with leader. See how he interacts. He pitches a 1k. Swing with leader, trigger effect. Have the Brook, which is exactly what we're looking for here. And then I'll go ahead and play the Brook, which will play the Usopp to then activate 2 of my Dawn. Keeping a Love Beam or Paradise if I want in hand, as well as a bunch of counter power. But unfortunately, he does have the King. It is a little weird because he should have probably kinged the Nami. I'm going to go ahead and defend this. He goes 5k at my lead. I'll go ahead and pitch a 1k. And it comes back to me. I'm going to deal with this Minotaur here because this Minotaur really presents a lot of pressure. That dual attack is a little more than I can bargain for. But the RC blows. Goes back to my turn. I go ahead and I add a Zorro here. And I will just deploy the Boa Hancock. Keep one Dawn up for the Paradise Waterfall. So I can always block, draw a card, and then block, draw a card potentially. Or like there's something along those lines that I can do. But the worst possible scenario would be if they have just another king. But we are at least at 3 life, which is exactly where we want to be. We have a pretty solid board state, and there she goes. So I'm going to try to defend this Nami here in any way that I can. I'm trying to think if I do Paradise this. Yeah, so I go ahead and defend it. I do still have the Love Beams for the next turn. He is able to clear the Usopp, and it comes back to me. And Monkey D. Luffy is exactly what I needed here. So I'm going to go just base at the face. I'm deciding if I want to swing with this Nami. I know that I'm playing the Luffy, but does Nami also go in and attack? I am in the 9 turn, so I could play a Dawn, swing, trigger effect. I find another Luffy, which, sure. Trigger Luffy to summon Zorro to restand 2. Since I was going to use Nami's effect, there is something to be said about not swinging with Nami and also not using her effect, but I do want to put on the pressure. I know he has a Magellan hand, which isn't counter. I think he has a Hell's Judgment, so I'm trying to defend as just much as I can. I want to defend that attack because I want him to swing at my Nami user as a pseudo blocker. I'll go ahead and block here off the Luffy, and he passes turn. Now I have Punk Gibson, Love Beam, and another Luffy in play, so I'm just going to keep summoning Luffys. He Hell's Judgments here. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. Deciding if I want to swing with this Luffy or not. I think I can afford to just do this, trigger her effect, find a Chopper, which is excellent because now I was able to find a 2K, and I have a Punk Gibson, a 2K, and a Love Beam. He goes and plays Little Sadie, which is probably a mistake here, as that just is a 2K in hand. You could have just run out the Koala. He goes Koala and Domino, keeping up 4 Dawn, which is more than you need, my boy. More than you need. He swings 6. I think I can just take a free block here. If he wants to go and commit into this, we're absolutely fine. I'll defend. I'll go ahead and Punk Gibson. I could have chose to Love Beam, and then if I would have, so he swung at face anyways, which probably was a mistake. He probably thought I had one more counter. I have 2 Love Beams in hand, so I'm just going to keep as much as I can, and I'm looking for combo power with this Nami. Just got to swing bases. 7. I'm looking for him to Hell's Judgment me here, and he does. I go ahead and swing for 7. He takes, and I swing for 7. I'm deciding if I do want to attach any Dawn here, or what do I do? So I swing for 7. So we're back with the deck, and my goodness. It was very difficult tonight to find some good games. Either people would get absolutely blown out and would leave. I'd get like one shot by red. But Lord knows. I went ahead and made a couple iterations to the deck. This is version like 4. But certainly seems a little bit more cohesive with this specific variant. The big changes I made were adding one more Mihawk, switching to the Don Quixotes as that Pacifista Kuma combo never really happened, adding in Jinbei to have some more early game presence, as well as some more 2Ks in Desert Spada. But overall, is Sanji a good leader? Can he really game? Can he cook? He's definitely a good leader. I've unironically taken this to tournament and topped. Does that mean I would take this to a major event? If I'm being honest, probably not. There's a lot of cons with the deck. At the end of the day, in that hyper-aggressive meta, living ain't easy. It ain't easy. If you aren't summoning 500 blockers like Law usually does, and you're not really recycling value, it's really tough to be a 4-lifer right now. Just look at the other 4-lifers. Where they at? I know Zephyr can sometimes win, but honestly, all the 4-lifers are in a very tough spot besides Trafalgar Law. Crocodile, Kaido, decks that I once really heavily believed in with the blue-purple archetype, are struggling to see competitive gameplay and push into the meta because of the oppression that not only green, but red provides. Law, fortunately, is one of the only characters that could, hold both of those attributes, those colors in his hands, and says, I will gain the power, and then sometimes still loses because they brick. With that being said, Sanji has not surprised me because I did think this would go exactly how I went, but the deck isn't necessarily bad. There are some game states and some mechanics, as well as some matchups that really do fit into Sanji's favor. The slower the game goes, the harder to really ignore him as a leader. He's continuously getting effect. You can't deal with his board because he has infinity counter, as well as almost every single body you pump out is above 5k. Everything is a threat. If they curve you out with Luffy into Mihawk, you're gonna have a bad time, and you can't really expect them to have zero counter in hand. Although the deck plays a couple of non-counter powered cards, aka Nami, Luffy, Mihawk, and if they draw an amalgamation of these events, that can happen. But the deck overall seems very, very solid. The blue engine really leaves something to be desired. I truly believe that we're going to need a little bit more archetypal support for blue in order for this deck to really break out. Oftentimes, I wish that I had blue film cards. If there are some sort of blue film Straw Hat characters that get printed in the future, this deck to the moon. But as of right now, the blue engine really leaves a lot to be desired. The green engine really does a lot of the carrying, where blue, better cards can come in the future. I do believe that this is a pretty interesting deck. It's not something that I would say, if you're a Sanji enjoyer, you're a Sanji fan, if this is your main deck, I'm not telling you to give up on Sanji. I'm not telling you not to take this to a competitive tournament. I'm just saying that there are easier options that may net you easier paths to victory. Now, do we all want easier paths? Not really. But honestly, Sanji can get you there in locals, but maybe not in a very long tournament. As over the course of time, statistically, the curve will go ahead and bell out, and we might just get absolutely rolled. The OPO2 format has become increasingly powerful for the One Piece card game. Powerhouses like Odin, 9-drop Whitebeard, 10-drop Kuzan. It feels like every deck has a boss monster, whereas we are kind of using Mihawk as a boss monster. And we're not necessarily playing to a game-winning strategy, as opposed to, I will win the board, I will defend the board, and I will hope to God that I can KO you. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The slower the game goes, the more Sanji can churn you out, but in very fast-paced settings, with some certain hands, you might just find yourself out-tempoed. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the games. I hope you learned something. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like down below. And if you're a Sanji fan, a Sanji main, please leave a comment section on how you've been using this deck in your local setting, in your competitive testing, and what you have done to make this deck a little bit stronger from your experience. As well, if you're enjoying this specific type of content and haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing and joining the Yeehaw crew, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.